Welcome to Fuel. Fuel stands for Finance, Unity, Empowerment, Legacy. Join Dennis, Dr. Jackie, and Mac as they explore the topic. It's all about that savings thing. Enjoy.
So I know that last week we ended with Dr. Jackie wanting to talk more about savings, and Dennis, you had expressed an interest in talking about insurance. So I don't know if you want to combine that or just free flow, or if you got something else that's entirely different. I'm good.
Dr. Jackie, what do you think?
Well, I think that the two are combined, that there are multiple ways that individuals can save money. And I guess it seems like it's one of the things I'm always talking about is the taking out money for yourself. And so we can start with that because as it relates to insurance, people often say that they're paying for something versus looking at its value for their future benefits. And they do the same when it comes to saving money. They may say, I'm going to put aside so I can buy something, but not necessarily looking at it as building towards their future for their future generations. And it's a mindset. I heard a gentleman on a presentation of talking about waiting for gratification. And our culture tends to say, I went out today and worked hard, so I need to spend the money to show, to prove, to show what I have, to show what I did, not waiting. So if you have a thing that you want, how long can you wait to get it? Now, of course, if you're looking at a sale that ends by such and such, you may have a time frame. But I'm talking about in general, the the waiting to have your money build. There's so many, and I'm not going to pick on the millennials, but there's so many people that I have talked to about doing something, and almost the first question comes out, but when can I touch that money? So I know I'm going to do this monthly, but when will I be able to get some back? When will I be able to spend it? And and so as it relates to savings and insurance, it is a later gratification. It is looking at the benefit for your life at a future time. It is a looking at what you'll be able to pass on to your children, a generational legacy. It is a, oh my gosh, I need tires on the car and I have no savings, no emergency fund. It is the, I don't know when that emergency is going to come because in my hand, I don't have a crystal ball. And that's why we do it. So, um, but I do find that many will look at the fact that they are scraping and have no way that they can see that they can save anything. And so I was reading another article in the many books that I have on my bookshelf. And and it said even if it's 25 cents from your dollar, even if it's 25 cents that you put aside. I think last week, Dennis, didn't you talk about saving in the big bucket, your extra change in the bucket? And I've heard that story from lots of people where when they just come in and pull out whatever change they have. Well, the problem now is a lot of people are not using cash. And the system has built us into a mindset of card. Pull out that card. You're taking too much time going for the cash and looking for the change. Pull out that card, which means it's invisible, which means it's hard for you to see when there's no more left. When you open the wallet and you see the dollar bills are going. But if you say, I'm taking 25 cents out of dollar. Oh, I have $2. I'm gonna take $1 out of the 2. Ooh, I have 5. I'm gonna take 2 out of the 5, etc. It doesn't have to be huge, just has to be done. So with that in mind, you know, Dennis, maybe you can talk some more about insurance, but I look at our ability to save as insurance on our actual saving as it then relates to what we can do generationally, as we can do a preparation.
I like to use a couple phrases that I've learned over my lifetime. And one was, it's better to have and not need than to need and not have. So how do we apply that? Number one, just imagine your telephone, and you drop your telephone, and most people drop their phones, the glass cracks. How many of you guys have insurance on your telephone? Because you know the glass is going to crack when you drop it. And then you drive your car or motorcycle or truck, whatever you got. It's beautiful. And you drive around the street, but you have insurance because there are other people driving on the street. And the chances of you getting in an accident, although slim at times, depending on where you live, you want your car to be put back the way it was. Or, you know, your house. You know, there's people in Texas who didn't know they lived in a floodplain because they lived on top of a hill. Hey, I live on top of a hill, but I don't have flood insurance. So, but they have insurance because fires happen, plumbing issues happen, unfortunately, burglaries happen. So you have to protect those assets from the what might happens. You know, better to have and not need. Oh my gosh, flood insurance, if I could get it, I would get it. But it would take a lot of water to get to the top of this hill. And that's what the people in Texas thought. It would take a lot of water to get up this hill. And that water went up the hill and over it. So, but then we walk around with our number one asset, unprotected.
Yeah.
I mean, ask yourself some truthful questions. You remember when you first learned how to ride the bike? Didn't you fall a couple times? The first time you were driving a car, you weren't a professional driver, but that means the person next to you might not be a professional driver. You got the car insured, but what about the occupant, the driver, you know? So we walk around, and I talk to people all the time. I say, you know, do you have insurance? I don't need insurance. If I die, it's just, I'm gone. So I ain't got to worry about it. How selfish is that? But you know what? I'm going to take it off of that. I want anybody to feel bad. Let's look at it a different way. What is the number one of, I'm going to have to say one of, because things change all the time. But what is one of the number one ways to do wealth creation? To have and not need, but to be there if you need it. Unfortunately, it's insurance. Not all insurance can do things, but wealth creation is the one that I focus on right now. You know, I'm a single parent with a daughter, and I raised her from a pup. About 6 years old, she was all my responsibility. She was insured immediately. And people say, well, why did you insure your daughter? Because stuff happens. And then I said, wait a minute, if stuff can happen to her at 6, you know stuff can happen to me at 19. Okay, nobody got that, thank goodness. Anyway, so I said, wait a minute, let me go and get insured too. So I went and got insured, and my daughter was insured, and I got a letter in the mail, and the letter said, Mr. Sawyer, you now have access to this much money. I'm like, access to this much money? Hey, my car just broke. So I went to that access, took the money out and bought a car, no car payments. I said, whoa, wait a minute. This stuff is pretty good. So I started putting more money into my cash value life insurance. A lot of people don't like cash value life insurance. I mean, there are plenty of ways to make a lot of money, but hey, you got to have a foundation. So inadvertently, while I was trying to protect my daughter's future, I had created, I'm gonna use this word lightly, a banking system for myself. Whoa. So what does that mean? I didn't have to go and borrow money to buy a car. I know people say, I don't borrow money to buy a car. Well, if you're paying by the month, you're borrowing money to buy a car. And that way you're paying interest to somebody else. I pay interest to me. And I don't drive Yugos and whatever. I drive BMWs, which this is my last BMW, but I pay cash for it. I paid cash for it because my life insurance policy had grown to the point where I could pay cash for things like that. It's my last one because it wasn't a good use of the money. But the car has lasted 20 years or 15 years or whatever. I don't even know anymore. I don't even drive it. COVID has hit everybody and I don't even drive anymore. So, wow, now I have an asset that keeps on growing. So what did I do? Well, you know, my daughter inevitably grew up, went to college. Guess where I got her college money from? Not all of it, but a lot of it. Cash value insurance. Oh my gosh. You know, I'm a saver, but I didn't have enough saved up for college. But then again, I did. You know, that's why it's better to have when, even though you don't need it. So rather than needing it and not having it. So I went into my insurance, help her finish college. And now she's living a good life. She's living in my extra bedroom, you know, eating my extra food, using my extra electricity, taking 50-minute extra long showers. But now she is building wealth. I know I joke about this because it's true, but because now she's building wealth. She said, Daddy, I want a house. I said, okay, but I don't have money. I went to her life insurance policy and she had enough in there to not only put a down payment on a house, not enough to buy a house, but a down payment on the house and buy a brand new car.
Wow.
Which I don't think she owes that much on anymore. I don't, you know, I try to help her with her finances, but, you know, it takes people a while to understand what money really is and how it really works. I know last time Mac talked about money being a tool. I know you probably thought I forgot, Mac, but no, I tell people that all the time. So when you say so, I say, did he get that from me or did he get that from himself? I think he got it from his mother. But money is a tool. And just like, would you say, Mac, a hammer and a screwdriver? You got to learn how to use those tools. You know, I worked in construction for 4 years. And let me tell you, I've seen people use hammers and screwdrivers in ways you would never think of, but it's a tool. The more you know how variable, how to vary, how the various ways, I had to use V 3 times there, you can use a tool that you, once you understand how to use it one way, a whole bunch of other ways come into your brain. So now my daughter was able to buy a house, a car, take care of whatever needs she had, and COVID strikes. Now, anybody out there say, my job? My job? I'm gonna say it one more time. Do y'all walk around saying this is my job? It is not your job. The sooner you get that through your head, the sooner you respect your payday. You take that money, you don't blow it on the weekend. Now, I don't say don't get the things you want out of life. I said don't blow it. Put that money to work for you. You have an employee. You have a tool. You got to learn how to use it because someday you're going to need it. COVID hit. She's out of work and she hasn't cried yet. And I'm trying to get her to go get a job, but she doesn't need one. Not right now, because someone said a long time ago, I don't know if I should say their name, but they said if the longer you can stay away from having a job is how wealthy you are. Well, so far my daughter's been a year wealthy, and I project that she's not going to need a job for 2 more years, if that much. As long as her investments keep growing the way they are, she's probably never going to need a job. I need her to get a job for experience and to build up that storehouse, because in time of plenty, you save up for time of famine, because famine surely will come. So I hammered that into her head, and I hammered it into my head. And like Dr. Jackie said, it started with a jar of coins, and it has extended all the way to COVID. I've been retired for almost 10 years now. I call it 10, but it's really like 7 or 8. But I talked to a coworker yesterday, and he's still working. He's older than me. And when I tried to talk to him about the pathways that I saw with money, he said weekend's coming. He's taking his children out to Happy Food Place and spend $200. Well, my daughter and I, we had meatless weekends, and we do Spanish food, and we do African food, and we learned how to cook. I'm the father with that, and she did have a mother, but not a mother present. So I had to teach her how to sew, how to cook, how to do those things that help you or keep you from having to buy everything. So, Dr. Jackie, I don't know if I hit all of your subjects that you brought up, but I live my life the way I talk. Is it hard sometimes? Yes. I want a new car, but I refuse to spend that much money on a car unless my assets grow big enough to buy another car. So as far as assets, I guess I should pass the torch real quick. So I'm just talking about assets real quick, then I'll move on. Insurance is an asset. So let me define asset real quick. Well, not for me, this was what I've heard over my lifetime. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket and you do not have to sell it to get the benefit of it. Think about that. So I know people make a lot of money selling sneakers. I understand. And I'm not talking bad about that process. Sales is probably one of the #1 ways to make money. But once you sell that pair of Michael Jordans, it is no longer making money for you. Yeah, you got 100% profit, but that's it. What if you got 10% profit every month for your life? And this is what insurance can do for you. Not only you, but a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Guess what? I didn't check off good man. So I'm gonna pass the torch. Because, I'm gonna pass the torch until another subject comes up.
I was thinking, Mac, Dennis mentioned the lessons learned from your mother and your father, who were in fact good savers. Were you aware of that when you were growing up, that they were good savers? How did that become known to you?
Actually, Dr. Jackie, I was aware without being aware. So let me explain that. I was raised as an only child. So the immediate thing is that if you're an only child, you're spoiled. But in the McElwain household, they didn't play that. I had to earn everything. So even as a preteen, I started to pick up entrepreneurial skills. I was gifted in art, and I was already selling my art as a preteen. So then I would be, given instruction on how best to, save the money that was earned. Eventually, I went out and started doing little part-time work. My very first official job was doing janitorial work and, starting to accumulate money that way. But even on the side, I was cutting people's grass, So, I always had to earn the money. It was never given. The one thing that I got, which was the biggest purchase that my parents ever gave me, was right around the time, I guess around 15 or 16, where they gave me a choice. They said, either you can, we'll buy you a car, or we'll buy you an organ. And I'm talking about an instrument now,
What were you?
or a keyboard or organ.
Okay.
A car, automobile, or a musical organ.
Gotcha.
So I already understood that I wanted both of them, which meant that I knew I had to earn the other one. So understanding already the concept of money and the value, well, I had them buy the organ. And the reason I had them buy the organ was because in those days, the organ was $5,000. Whereas I could get a hoopty for $900. So I already understood I'd rather be responsible for the 900 than the 5,000.
Good economics.
Yes. But to your point, Dr. Jackie, I would say more so my mother. She was really the one. It wasn't that we sat down and took lessons or anything, but I was just available to see her handling the books, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, being young and stupid, I strayed totally away from those valuable lessons. And in some ways, I'm still paying the price for that, even as we sit here today. But when I got married and started to grow my own family, then all of those lessons started to come back. And I realized at that point the value of understanding money. And not to be too long-winded with this, the top word for me, even as you guys were sharing, was the word called budget. And that budget is how I live my life to this very day. So give you an example. I won't give the dollar amounts, but I know when I am in the United States, how much money I need on a monthly basis, just as I know how much money is needed when I am living here in Guatemala, where I'm currently sitting. The two amounts are totally different, but I already know what the amounts are, and I live within those amounts so that I'm not paying interest on a credit card, which is a negative place to be, but am actually accumulating interest, which is a good thing, because as part of my budget, it includes saving and it includes investing. And that's where the interest is a positive thing, going to Genesis rule of 72. And that's how we live our life. And so I'm very, very, very strict on that budget. So when we're in Guatemala, for instance, I asked Myra, because Myra kind of handles things here. I say, honey, how much do we need? And I funnel it into our account here. And if something happens, we're going to have to deal with it because nothing else is going to hit. It's not. That's how strict I am. In the same way in the States, we live within a certain parameter. If it takes me away from that, I don't do it. So again, within that is protection, because I know that's a key word too. So for me, the protection is in savings and investments. I consider those things protection. They protect me now, but they also protect the future, which I might not even be a part of, but will be for my wife, my children, family. So that's kind of how I see it within the concept of what you guys were talking about.
Because we had so much to cover on this topic of savings, we decided to break up our conversation into 2 parts. So look forward to the second part of It's All About That Savings Thing the next time that we broadcast.